young woman crashes her car on a quiet mountain road and vanishes within minutes. No footprints, no phone calls, no trace. What really happened to Maura Murray? The deeper you go, the stranger it gets. You might think you know the story of Maura Murray, the nursing student who disappeared without a trace on a snowy February night. But what if everything you heard was only half the truth? What if the real story challenges everything we believe about disappearances, cold cases, and justice? This isn't just another missing person case. It's a puzzle wrapped in secrecy, lies, and maybe even betrayal. Here's the shocking truth. Most people assume Maura just ran away. But what if she didn't? What if the answers have been hiding in plain sight, right under our noses? In a world obsessed with quick fixes and surface-level explanations, the Maura Murray case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. Questions that don't have easy answers, but that could finally crack this unsolved mystery wide open. And here's why you should care. Understanding what really happened to Maura could change the way you see all cold cases and true crime stories. It's about more than just curiosity. It's about learning how to spot the hidden signs, how to question the official narratives, and how to never accept silence as an answer. The truth is closer than you think, and by the end of this, you'll see why this case continues to haunt investigators and true crime fans alike. So buckle up, because this isn't your typical story. It's a journey into one of America's most perplexing unexplained mysteries, where every detail counts, and every moment could be the key to solving a puzzle that's baffled the nation for over 2 decades. Ready to uncover what really happened to Maura Murray? Let's dive in. Before the headlines, before the missing posters, before the forums and podcasts, Maura Murray was just a 21-year-old nursing student trying to make it through life. She studied at UMass Amherst, juggled classes, worked part-time, and had that bright future label everyone talks about. She wasn't a rebel. She was a high achiever with a history of being both academically sharp and athletically driven. Cross-country running, top grades, ROTC. Maura was the kind of person you'd expect to hear great things about, not whispers from cold cases boards and unsolved mysteries groups. Her life, on the surface, looked like a brochure of success. Think about it. Good family, college student, driven. But that's the thing about true crime stories. The surface lies. They always do. If you looked just a bit closer, you'd start to see something deeper, something cracking. And that's where this gets haunting. Because not all disappearances begin in the woods. Some start quietly, in your dorm room, in your mind, on a winter afternoon. You know that feeling when someone smiles but their eyes look far away. That's how Maura had been described in the weeks before she vanished. Friends, professors, even her track teammates started picking up on her emotional distance. But no one could quite explain it. And here's the catch. Most cold cases don't begin with chaos. They begin with silence. With someone slowly pulling away, while the world keeps spinning like nothing's wrong. And while we're at it, let's not forget how many young women in college go unnoticed when they're silently suffering. Maura wasn't alone in that. The pressure to perform, to be perfect, to keep it all together while something inside quietly breaks. It's a dangerous cocktail, one that rarely gets addressed in time. And for Maura, time was about to run out. By all accounts, Maura wasn't the kind of girl to just walk away, but she was the kind of girl who hid her struggles. She had a boyfriend, a close-knit family, dreams of becoming a nurse, but behind the smile, there were stress fractures forming, ones even those closest to her didn't fully recognize. It's like she was preparing for something, but no one realized what or why. And that's the part that keeps people up at night. Not just that she vanished, but that she may have been quietly slipping away long before February 9th ever came. It's a detail that hits hard for anyone who's ever missed a subtle cry for help, for anyone who's ever looked back and thought, was that the sign? That one strange text, the sudden change in behavior, the silence when they used to call. What sets this cold case apart is how normal it all seemed, until it wasn't. There were no break-ins, no masked figures, no threatening messages. Just a girl, young and brilliant, slowly becoming a question mark in her own story. And maybe that's what makes this one of the most gripping unsolved mysteries of our time. It forces us to look closer at the people around us, and the ones we think we know best. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. Because once you understand who Maura really was, not the myth, not the mystery, but the human, you start asking different questions. Not how she disappeared, but why she felt she needed to go somewhere no one could follow. And that's exactly what we'll start uncovering in the days that led up to her vanishing. Something was off in the days leading up to Maura Murray's disappearance, and not in a way you'd immediately notice. But piece by piece, her behavior started painting a picture no one could ignore. She got into a minor accident while working at her campus security job. Crashed her dad's car, actually. And although it was just a fender bender, the emotional aftermath hit her like a truck. She broke down at work, reportedly crying so hard she couldn't even finish her shift. That moment, it was the first visible crack in her carefully composed image. Then came the lie. Maura emailed her professors saying there'd been a death in the family. But no one in her family had died. There were no funerals, no obituaries, no grieving relatives. She made it up, just like that. It wasn't just a white lie to get out of class. It was a calculated move to clear her schedule. And that single email is where this cold case really starts to twist. Because once you start lying to leave town, you're planning something. But what? And the weirdness didn't stop there. She started researching rental cabins in Vermont and New Hampshire, like she was preparing for a solo getaway. It wasn't spring break, and she hadn't told her boyfriend or friends anything. She was just quietly browsing places to disappear into. Imagine that. One minute you're in your dorm room, the next you're plotting an escape to a remote, snowy town. It sounds like the beginning of one of those true crime documentaries. Because, well, it is. Even more curious, she packed up her dorm. Not completely, but partially. Enough to make people wonder. She even printed out directions to Burlington, Vermont. Why there specifically? What was she hoping to find, or maybe run from? And when people start diving into these unsolved mysteries, this part always sticks out, because it doesn't scream kidnapping, it whispers escape. Let's pause and think, how often do people around us go through emotional spirals we never pick up on? People Google things they'll never say out loud. They make quiet moves that only make sense in hindsight. In Maura's case, there was a haunting calmness to her actions. She wasn't frantic, she was organized. And that's what scares you, the possibility that she chose to vanish. Her phone records show she called for lodging information, and she withdrew $280 from her bank account. Not a lot, but enough for gas, food, and a couple nights somewhere remote. She even picked up some alcohol, not party stuff, just enough to suggest solitude. Wine, Bailey's, Kahlua. It's the kind of mix that says, I want to forget for a while, not let's celebrate. And if you've ever planned a spontaneous trip just to get away from the noise, you know the feeling. But in Maura's case, it wasn't just escapism. It was something deeper. Almost like she was preparing for an ending. Not a vacation, not a detour. Something more. Final. And that's exactly what makes this case a magnet for true crime obsessives and cold case sleuths alike. People still debate whether Maura was running from something, or to something. But either way, those final days were anything but random. Her every move hinted at a calculated plan, and that plan was set into motion on the morning of February 9th, the day she got into her Saturn and left everything behind. February 9th, 2004. A cold Monday afternoon in Amherst, Massachusetts. For most students, it was just another day on campus. But for Maura Murray, it was the beginning of something far more mysterious. She left her dorm room, packed a few belongings, and without telling a soul, no goodbye note, no dramatic exit, she simply vanished from her routine. No one knew she was leaving, and that silence speaks volumes in true crime cases. Because when someone slips away without a trace, it usually means they didn't want to be followed. Her first stop? An ATM. She withdrew $280 in cash. It wasn't her entire bank balance, but it was close. That kind of move raises eyebrows, especially in cold cases like this, where every dollar spent becomes a clue. She didn't tell her bank to freeze her account, didn't make any arrangements, just took the money, like she was prepping for a quick trip or a clean break. Either way, the clock had officially started ticking. Right after the ATM, she hit the liquor store. Nothing flashy, just a few bottles of alcohol, enough for a solo stay, wine, Baileys, and Kahlua. That combination doesn't scream party. It suggests someone trying to numb something, maybe settle nerves. Some people speculate she was planning to drink herself into a fog. Others say she just wanted comfort. But one thing's clear. These were deliberate choices, not random impulses. Then came a stop at the DMV. Odd, right? She picked up accident forms, possibly related to the previous crash with her dad's car. But still, why now? Why on the same day she planned to leave town? Some theories suggest she was tying up loose ends. Others think she was trying to avoid legal consequences. Either way, it adds another layer to this unsolved mystery. A layer where logic starts to blur with instinct. Now here's something that still haunts people. She emailed her professors that day, told them she'd be gone for a week due to a death in the family. Again, that same fabricated story. But this time, it wasn't just to skip a shift or miss a class. It was her way of disappearing without raising alarms. That calculated lie. It's chilling, because it means she knew she wouldn't be back in a day or two. She was already planning the distance. Think about that moment. Maura sitting in front of a computer, typing out a fake excuse while quietly orchestrating her own vanishing act. It's the kind of scene that sticks with you. The calm before a storm that no one saw coming. And it reminds us how cold cases don't always begin with screams or sirens. Sometimes they begin with a perfectly composed email, and this is where we cross the line from strange to downright eerie. Because by 3:30 p.m., she was in her Saturn, headed north. No destination publicly confirmed, just gone. No calls to friends, no text to her boyfriend, not even a heads up to her roommate. In the world of true crime, that's what you call a clean break. And very few people pull it off without leaving breadcrumbs, unless they don't want to be found. So what was going through Maura's head as she drove away that day? That's the million-dollar question. Was she escaping something unbearable? Was she heading towards someone or somewhere she trusted? Or was this all part of a darker plan she never got to complete? Whatever it was, that drive was the beginning of her becoming an unsolved mystery that still grips America to this day. And just a few hours later, everything would change. Again. A crash on a lonely stretch of road. A witness. A few minutes. Window. And then, nothing. By 7:27 p.m. that same day, Maura's Saturn had spun out on a remote stretch of Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire, just outside Woodsville. We're talking rural. No streetlights, no traffic, barely any cell signal, just winding back roads through snow-covered woods. It's the kind of place that feels like it was pulled straight out of a true crime podcast. A place where unexplained mysteries seem to come alive when the sun goes down. And this one? It came alive in under 10 minutes. A local man, a school bus driver heading home, was the first to spot the car. He saw it nosed into a snowbank, hazard lights blinking. As he slowed down, he noticed something else. The cabin light inside the car was on. And just as he rolled by, he heard something strange, a loud thump or bump, like the sound of someone shutting a trunk or hitting metal. He pulled over, offered help, but Maura politely declined. "I already called AAA," she said. "Only, there's no record of that call. Not from her phone, not from any phone. And here's where the timeline gets chilling. The bus driver drove off, thinking she was fine. But less than 10 minutes later, when police arrived, Maura was gone. Just like that. No footprints in the snow leading into the woods. No sign of a struggle. No blood. No Maura. Just her car. Still. Locked, still running, with all her belongings inside. You don't have to be a cold cases expert to know this doesn't add up. Her gloves were there. Her cell phone? Missing. Her debit cards and license? Gone too. But oddly enough, her bags and the alcohol she bought were still in the vehicle. If she'd just wandered off, why leave essentials behind? And if someone else had taken her, why not take the car too? That's the kind of detail that fuels unsolved mysteries for decades. It just doesn't fit. Police found wine stains inside the vehicle. One of the bottles had cracked during the crash and spilled across the interior. No signs of a second person, no drag marks, no tire tracks suggesting another car had pulled up behind hers. It was as if she'd vanished into thin air. And let's be honest, people don't just evaporate in 10 minutes. Something happened during that tiny window. And whatever it was, it's kept this cold case ice cold for over 20 years. Some speculate she ran into the woods, maybe injured or intoxicated, and succumbed to the elements. But again, no footprints. The snow was fresh and thick. If she ran, she should have left a trail. Others think someone local picked her up. A good Samaritan. Or maybe not so good. Because in these parts, it's not just the cold that kills. It's isolation. And the wrong person at the wrong time. There were also no canine hits during the search. Dogs lost her scent within feet of the car. No evidence she stayed in the area. It's like she was there, and then she wasn't. And that's what keeps this story alive in every cold case subreddit and true crime docuseries. It's not just the mystery, it's the impossibility of it all. How does someone vanish with police less than a mile away? Let's not forget, rural roads like Route 112 have a reputation, not because of what's on the map, but because of what's not. No cameras, no traffic, no immediate help. And when you add in bad weather, nightfall, and human error, you've got the perfect storm for something to go horribly wrong and to stay hidden forever. But there was still one thing left behind that no one could explain. A rag, stuffed into Maura's exhaust pipe. And whether it was sabotage or a panic fix, it only deepens the mystery. And that's just the beginning of what investigators would soon uncover, or fail to uncover, in the aftermath of that lonely roadside crash. The Saturn was locked when police arrived. Inside, Maura's belongings sat eerily untouched. Her textbooks, her packed bags, even the alcohol she had just purchased. Nothing seemed stolen. Nothing was obviously disturbed. Yet she was gone. Cold cases like this are chilling not because of what's found, but because of what isn't. And here, what was missing told the real story. No signs of a scuffle, no blood, just silence, snow, and the unsettling absence of footprints leading in any direction. The road had a thin layer of snow at the time, fresh enough to leave clear impressions. And yet, no tracks were found heading into the woods or down the road. Search dogs lost her scent almost immediately, and thermal imaging from helicopters revealed nothing. It was as if she vanished upward instead of outward. True crime analysts have long argued, in cases like this, time is the most valuable currency. And Maura's clock had started ticking the second she stepped out of that car, wherever she went. Her cell phone and bank cards were never used again. No calls, no texts, no purchases, nothing. In a world where every move leaves a digital trail, Maura's sudden silence was deafening. And remember, we're not talking about 1965. This was 2004. Technology existed to track people, and yet she became invisible. That makes this one of those rare, unsolved mysteries that feels more like fiction than fact. The kind of story that Hollywood writes. But this one's real. And then there's that rag in the tailpipe. A mechanic might tell you that some people do that to temporarily stop a car from smoking or stalling. But Maura's father claimed he told her to do that as a temporary fix if the car was acting up. Still, it begs the question, why wasn't she trying to leave the scene? Why was she just sitting there? Unless someone stopped, and she trusted them enough to get in. It's details like these that make cold cases so frustrating and addictive. You think you're close to a breakthrough, but every clue leads to another dead end. That's why the online sleuth community has been obsessed with Maura's case for years. There are entire message boards dedicated to analyzing the placement of her belongings, the angle of the car, even the way the rag was inserted into the pipe. Because when you have no answers, every detail feels like a potential key. Here's something else that's strange. The scent dogs hit briefly at the crash site, then lost the trail just 100 yards down the road. That usually suggests one thing. She got into another vehicle, but no one saw another car. No one heard one. And in an area that quiet at that time of night, a second vehicle would have stood out like a flare in the dark. So either it was someone who knew the road well, or someone she'd planned to meet, and the idea that someone planned this with her. That's where the conspiracy theories start spiraling. Was it a secret boyfriend, a stranger posing as help, a local with a dark past? All of those theories have lived online for nearly 2 decades, and none of them have ever stuck. That's the problem with cold cases. The deeper you dig, the more the truth gets buried under speculation. The investigators at the scene couldn't find any immediate evidence of foul play. But what does that even mean in a case like this? Absence of proof isn't proof of absence. Just because there were no drag marks or bloodstains doesn't mean she walked away on her own. She could have been lured, threatened, or simply afraid. And that fear might have pushed her into the arms of someone she shouldn't have trusted. The car became a shrine for many, a symbol of a moment frozen in time. Some say that vehicle holds the answers. Others believe it's just a decoy, an intentional misdirection. But one thing is certain. Whatever happened to Maura that night didn't leave a trail. And that makes this one of the most perplexing and enduring unsolved mysteries in American true crime history. And yet, as baffling as the evidence was, the story only grew stranger when the investigation began. And with it, a series of reclassifications, reversals, and revelations that would send the Murray family down a path they never could have imagined. First, the New Hampshire police chalked Maura's disappearance up as a voluntary runaway, an impulsive college kid trying to escape something. It's a common assumption in cold cases, especially involving young adults. But as days turned into weeks, that narrative didn't hold up. The lack of any digital footprints or sightings made investigators question if something darker was at play. And that's when the case shifted from missing person to suspected foul play. Theories exploded everywhere. Was Maura running from her past, from a secret life? Or was she abducted by a stranger who saw an easy target on a quiet road? Each theory had its supporters and detractors. Online forums buzzed with conspiracy ideas, some pointing to local suspects, others imagining shadowy figures lurking in the wilderness. And the more people speculated, the harder it became to separate fact from fiction. One early twist involved the police discovery that Maura had lied about the death in her family. That raised red flags for investigators, making them wonder what else she was hiding. Could the fabricated story be a clue to a bigger secret? Or just the desperate act of a stressed-out young woman? Cases like these remind us how emotional stress often precedes disappearances, sometimes creating a smokescreen that confuses both family and authorities. As the investigation grew, it attracted national attention, with true crime enthusiasts and media outlets diving into the unsolved mystery. Podcasts, documentaries, and blogs have kept the case alive, each adding new theories, new witnesses, and sometimes new leads. But despite the flood of information, solid evidence remained scarce. That's the cruel irony of cold cases. More eyes don't always mean more answers. Then came the family's relentless push for justice. Maura's sister Julie launched a podcast, Media Pressure, shining light on overlooked leads and potential mishandling by law enforcement. Her voice brought renewed hope and scrutiny to the case. The podcast uncovered reports of suspicious behavior near the crash site and even prompted new searches of private properties. It was a reminder that family advocacy can sometimes be the key to breaking cold cases wide open. New leads came in, including reports of a knife sighting given to Maura's father, supposedly found near the crash area. These kinds of clues, while tantalizing, often lead down rabbit holes, many ending in dead ends. But in cold cases, even a shred of evidence can be a lifeline, offering a glimmer of hope that the truth is still within reach. Despite renewed investigations and the media spotlight, the mystery of what truly happened to Maura Murray remains unsolved. Police continue to keep the case open, knowing that even the smallest detail could one day crack it wide open. And for fans of true crime and unsolved mysteries, it's a haunting reminder that some disappearances leave more questions than answers. With every new podcast episode, theory, and tip, the story of Maura Murray grows more complex. It's a labyrinth of half-truths, secrets, and unanswered calls. And as the cold case stretches on, it challenges everyone following it to ask, when does speculation help solve a mystery? And when does it bury the truth deeper? And that brings us to the next chapter, new clues and how Maura's family has kept the search alive, refusing to let this mystery fade quietly into the night. Years after Maura's disappearance, the family refused to let the story die quietly. Julie Murray, Maura's sister, stepped into the spotlight with her podcast, Media Pressure, a platform that did more than just retell the story. It reignited the investigation. Podcasts have become powerful tools in cold cases and unsolved mysteries, giving families a voice and the public a front-row seat. Julie's relentless dedication showed how modern media can push law enforcement to re-examine old leads. One of the more puzzling developments involved a knife presented to Maura's father. The knife was said to have been found near the crash site, but its origin and connection to the case remain murky. It's moments like these that highlight the frustration in true crime investigations, clues that could either be breakthroughs or wild goose chases. Still, any lead is a thread worth pulling when decades have passed without answers. In addition to the knife, searches on properties connected to persons of interest brought fresh hope. Families of missing persons often take this proactive stance, teaming up with law enforcement or even hiring private investigators. For viewers following cold cases, it's a good reminder. Persistence and pressure can keep a case alive long after it goes cold. It's not just about luck. It's about dogged determination. Documents found in Maura's car, previously overlooked, resurfaced in the renewed investigation. These included DMV papers and accident reports that could shed light on her state of mind and the timeline. It goes to show how details buried in paperwork can sometimes hold the key to understanding complex disappearances. It's a tip for anyone dealing with bureaucratic red tape. Never underestimate the power of revisiting old files. Even with these efforts, the case remains unsolved. But the family's actions underscore a vital truth in true crime. The fight for justice often outlasts the initial shock. Families become advocates, researchers, and storytellers, filling gaps where official investigations stall. Julie's podcast, for instance, has inspired many to dig deeper into their own unsolved mysteries, proving the power of storytelling as a tool for justice. The renewed media attention has also brought forward eyewitness reports and possible sightings, though none have led to a confirmed resolution. It's the nature of cold cases. Hope flickers, then dims, and sometimes flares back up. This roller coaster keeps communities and families engaged, refusing to accept the silence. One of the most powerful lessons here is how technology and media platforms have changed the landscape for cold cases. Years ago, a disappearance like Maura's might have quietly faded away. Today, a podcast, a blog, or a viral video can spark renewed interest, bringing fresh eyes and sometimes fresh evidence. It's a testament to how public involvement can keep unsolved mysteries from slipping into oblivion. Despite the many twists and turns, the Maura Murray case remains a haunting mystery, a puzzle piece that refuses to fit. But the family's unyielding pursuit serves as a beacon of hope. Because in cold cases, hope is often the only thing that keeps the search alive. So what can we really take away from Maura Murray's case? It's more than just an unsolved mystery. It's a lesson in paying attention to the little things, trusting your instincts, and never settling for easy answers. How often do we overlook the quiet signs around us, the unexplained mysteries hiding in plain sight? Maybe it's time to ask yourself, are you really seeing the full picture in your own life, or just what's comfortable? If Maura's story teaches us anything, it's that truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers, and you have to be willing to listen. So, what will you do when faced with your own mysteries, your own cold cases in life? Will you dig deeper, question more, or let the silence win? If you want to keep unraveling stories like Maura's, true crime cases, cold cases, and unsolved mysteries that challenge what you think you know, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tap the notification bell so you don't miss out on the next deep dive into the shadows where truth hides. Because here, every story matters, and every mystery deserves to be solved. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth is waiting for those who refuse to stop looking.